One of the concepts that self-defense street fighting is based upon is the concept of cheating, okay? And the reason why I am so, adamant about the concept of cheating is because it's like the ultimate, surprise attack. It's not necessarily difficult to gouge a guy's eye when you know how to do it, but most people don't expect it. So even if a guy's a better fighter than you, just the fact that he is not even thinking about it, okay, will allow an inferior fighter to win a street fight just because the inferior fighter has more of an open mind, okay? He's willing to go ahead and bite, he's willing to go ahead and eye gouge, whereas the other person who may be a trained wrestler, Thai boxer, MMA fighter, jiu-jitsu guy, whatever, he has the opportunity to do that. He's probably in better shape, in better trained than you, but because he's used to a rule set, or a set of honor, or a set of rules, whatever keeps him from doing it, he does not capitalize upon the opportunity, and that's your opportunity to use your mental advantage, okay, against a person who has a physical or a technical advantage and still win. And like I said, a street fight, any fight on the street is a street fight. A soccer mom defending her kid from somebody who's trying to kidnap the kid is in a street fight, okay? A cop is not detaining a criminal, okay? A cop is in a street fight, okay? Call it what you want. Two people on the street throwing down, it's a street fight. So I digress once again. Let's get back to the concept of cheating. And I want to talk to you about how I cheated my way to win the European Championship in grappling, submission wrestling. Okay. Years ago, okay, years and years and years ago, I won a gold medal in my weight class and at the European Championships in submission wrestling. And I never had a jiu-jitsu or an official, I never wrestled in high school. I really don't, I'm not very good at submission wrestling. So how did I do this, okay? At that point in my life, I was really, really good with leg locks. I'm really good at my legs are just strong and flexible in ways that allow me to give up a leg, to take a leg, and you'll tap way the hell before I do. It's just something I enjoy doing. I like the concept of leg locks. And since not a whole lot of people were doing leg locks back then, and still to this day aren't really, you may be better at triangle chokes and arm bars than me, but not a whole lot of people were nearly as good at leg locks as me. So that was always my advantage. And I went up to the European Championships. It was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, and that's very important, okay? People from all over Europe were there. It was in France, but there were people from, Germany, Belgium, a lot of French, obviously, Spain, Portugal. People flew in from Brazil to compete. It was really, there were a lot of people there. Everybody went there. Americans, either because they were stationed in Europe, my friends, or me, I was a civilian living in Europe. So we were all throwing down. We had a great time. And I went ahead, and since I never had a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class in my entire life, I went ahead in the novice division, the beginners division for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? Rule number one, no leg locks. Excellent, okay? I never really liked Jiu-Jitsu, not because I don't like Jiu-Jitsu itself, but because I hated wearing a gi, and I hated not being able to do leg locks. So I hated it when a guy would just grab me like a kitten, and it's I'm trying to push him away. I'm like, dude, could we just fight here? Is this possible? But they're just grabbing onto you, and you can't move. Much rather have a t-shirt, or better yet, just a pair of Vale Tudo shorts so you can slip out and slip in better, okay? But anyway, I went ahead and fought in the novice division and got my ass jacked. Nobody could submit me because that was also, 2000, when I did a lot of really heavy dinosaur training, heavy weights, simple exercises, low reps, and I was strong as hell, especially my tendons, my ligaments, really strong. It's hard to submit me. But because I couldn't do leg locks, I couldn't submit anybody else. I wasn't really good at positioning, so guys would get positioned on me and I'd get my ass jacked by points and I'd just lose. Fine. So then the captain, okay, he was an American officer in the Army, the captain of the American team is like, dude, I'm gonna get you in. You're gonna go in the intermediates. You're allowed to use leg locks. You're gonna kick everybody's ass. Well, basically, I fought against a bunch of people that were better than the guys who just kicked my ass. We were still wearing gis, and I was still not allowed to do leg locks. Okay, so needless to say, I got my ass jacked again. Okay, so that was cute. Then after that, he's like, no, I found out you're allowed to use leg locks in the advanced division. So I'm going to fight against, black belts in jiu-jitsu, okay, and brown belts, whatever, but black belts in jiu-jitsu, still not be able to use all my leg locks because this is something important. In Brazilian jiu-jitsu, at least in this tournament, only in the advanced division where leg locks allowed at all, first of all. Second, only straight leg locks. That means a knee bar, bending the knee straight, or extending the ankle in like a, Achilles lock, a calf, or an ankle lock, straight. No heel hooks, no toe holds, no twisting the knee at all, no twisting legs at all. None of that was allowed. So I'm like, listen, screw this. Okay, I'm not even gonna bother with this. Okay, then all of a sudden the submission wrestling part of the competition started. Now pay attention, this was in 2000. Submission wrestling didn't really exist back then. Abu Dhabi existed in Abu Dhabi. There were not all these qualifiers and local tournaments and stuff. It was basically just what people did in Abu Dhabi. Naga, I think it kind of existed, but it existed where it was supposed to. Like the North American Grappling Association was in North America, not in Europe. Now they have like the Scandinavian Championships in Naga, which is like, an oxymoron. North American Scandinavian Championship, whatever. Bottom line is, it was basically a bunch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys that took off their gis, threw on Vale Tudo shorts, and fought under submission wrestling rules. And I will remember the rules to this day. It was like, no biting, no eye gouging, and no traumatic strikes, okay? So that means you could like push a person, but you couldn't like hit them. Traumatic strikes were illegal. Every choke, neck crank, arm bar, and leg lock, arm lock and leg lock were allowed. Okay, so basically you just couldn't hit a guy, bite, you couldn't drop a guy in his head either. You could body slam a guy, but you just couldn't like pile drive or drop a guy in his head. And that was it. So now basically you had, and this is the part where it comes out that's interesting for self-defense. You had a bunch of guys that were a hell of a lot better than me at fighting under jiu-jitsu rules. Now, I had never had an official jiu-jitsu class in my life. So I grappled a lot, but I never learned how not to fight, okay? So we went in there, and like the first time, I remember the first time, it was a Belgian guy. It was a guy from Belgium. I'm standing sideways. He probably, he's kind of standing like a kickboxer. He's probably afraid of him, like throw a kick or something. So he was like concerned, just the way I'm standing. I was feinting up to his face when I didn't hit him, right? So it's legal, right? Feinting, jumped in, and then like the third or fourth time I jumped in, I slid in, like a baseball player, slid in, hooked his leg, and grabbed him in an Achilles lock. He's standing up, jumping up and down, trying to stand up. He fell, then he started rolling, trying to slip out. When he stopped rolling, I had a really tight Achilles lock, figure four'd my legs, went into a heel hook, and I won the fight in like 36 seconds or something like that. Even if or was it 26? Bottom line is I went right through him, okay? Guillotines, the next guy jumped in, tried to shoot and take me down. I caught him in a guillotine. We used to call it the Russian guillotine back in the day. It's basically like a guillotine with your legs in the guard, wrap your legs around him. I don't know why we called it the Russian guillotine back then. The guillotine wasn't, I don't think, illegal under jiu-jitsu rules, but you didn't see it a lot because it's just weird when you're wearing this thick, jiu-jitsu gi and stuff. And back then, at least in Europe, in jiu-jitsu, you did not see a whole lot of guillotines. So that was like cheating too. It was a very rarely used, less known technique, okay? Then after, what else did I do? I did, basically, I think I did an old Ken Shamrock Lion's Den technique, the crucifix, where basically you like overhook the guy's neck reach under his arms, you know, grab your hands and like pull. So basically the guy's, you know, like this, and his head gets pulled towards his, you know, chest. But anyway, I was using techniques that people didn't see. They were illegal. I was doing twisting leg locks, toe holds, you know, everything basically that was illegal under, you know, normal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rules at the time, okay? I was using leg locks. Most of the people were not allowed to use leg locks unless they're very advanced, okay, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time. Twisting leg locks, even black belts weren't allowed to use them in tournaments. So like I said, I was using stuff that nobody else really saw. Now what does this have to do with, you know, with self-defense? It's like I said many times before, if you're in a fight with somebody, okay, and they're locked into the concept of, you know, we're not allowed to do this, 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 and this, because that's one of the first things you learn when you learn a sport, okay? And MMA, submission wrestling, Thai boxing, everything, they're all sports, okay? So what it basically comes down to is if you have a person who you're fighting against who's physically better than you know, physically fit, he's stronger, faster, better endurance than you. He may have more technique, okay? He may have more training, may have more experience. But if everything that he learns teaches him not to use certain very effective techniques, okay? Certain very effective techniques, then he's actually at a disadvantage against somebody who may not be in the same shape, may not be as big as him or as strong as him, may not have the same technical ability, but if the person has an open mind, sees the opportunity to use, you know, an eye gouge, a headbutt, okay, to bite, okay, somebody who's aggressive enough to bite a person, you know, stuff like that, he will certainly have the upper hand even against a more skilled or an opponent that's in better shape. So like I said, that's basically my little story of how I cheated my way, legally cheated my way to winning the gold medal in submission wrestling many, many years ago. And also, like I said, I hope you learn a little bit about the way I came up with the concept of cheating and how instrumental it is, what a key concept that is in my creation of self-defense street fighting.